After 15 years of marriage, I overheard my wife on a call with her ex laughing about how all 4 kids were his. He actually thinks they're his, she said. 15 years, and he still has no idea. Saul and I call him the perfect fool. I didn't confront her. I just smiled and quietly prepared for her birthday party. When the cake was cut, I handed her 4 DNA test envelopes and watched the room collapse. Chapter 1. The Perfect Fool. 15 years. That's how long we'd been married. Or at least that's how long I thought we'd been building a life together. 4 beautiful kids, a modest but happy home, family road trips, scraped knees, bedtime stories, and Christmas traditions. To everyone else, we were picture perfect. To me, we were perfect until one rainy Thursday evening, the kind where everything feels slightly off. I came home early from work. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of the laundry machine in the basement. I was about to head upstairs when I heard her voice, low, laughing. He actually thinks they're his. I froze. 15 years. Saul and I call him the perfect fool. She giggled. The floor tilted under me. All 4 of them? Yep, every single one. Saul's boys. He has no clue. Wow, and he's never suspected, not once. He trusts me completely. He's sweet, but so stupid. The voice on the other end laughed too. I couldn't place it. Maybe a cousin, maybe her sister, maybe the devil. I backed away silently and left the house again before she knew I'd come home. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and rewrote the last 15 years in my head. Every birthday, every doctor's appointment, every I love you. Had it all been a performance? Was I just a placeholder? While Saul, the ghost from her past, watched from the shadows. Her birthday was in 2 weeks. She was already planning a grand party, a surprise she thought I was organizing for her. And I did, just not the kind she expected. While she picked out decorations, I picked up 4 DNA test kits. While she chose a venue, I chose truth over comfort. While she laughed in secret, I prepared in silence. I didn't confront her, didn't scream, didn't tip my hand, because I wasn't going to argue, I was going to expose. Chapter 2. The Quiet Setup. I began waking up earlier than usual, not to exercise, not to meditate, but to plan. My world had been shattered, but I moved like it hadn't. That was key. Every word I spoke to her, every nod, every smile was deliberate. She thought I was working late to organize her birthday celebration. In reality, I was quietly scheduling 4 separate DNA swab tests under false names at 3 different labs. Cross-verification, no errors. I needed the results to be indisputable. Daddy, why are we taking a test? Just something for fun, I told my youngest, ruffling her hair. It's a surprise project, I told the others. We'll all get something cool at the end. They laughed, took the swabs, thought nothing of it. It felt wrong, like I was betraying them. But deep down, I knew. I had to be sure. If there was even a 1% chance that she was lying, I had to know, because if the test did come back negative and I never found out, I'd be the fool forever. Meanwhile, she got bolder. She posted on social media, 15 years with this boring man, but he still lets me throw myself a party. Love you, babe. Her friends laughed in the comments. Even Saul liked the post that stung more than anything. I'd seen his name before, a contact she insisted was just an old friend. Now I wondered how many vacations had I paid for, where he was the one meeting her in secret. How many lies had I swallowed while she texted him 5 FT away? But I said nothing. I just smiled and continued the arrangements. I booked the restaurant, ordered the cake, invited her family, her friends, her world, because that night I'd burn it to the ground. Then the envelopes arrived, 4 white envelopes. Each one had a name printed on it. Each one had a truth that could never be taken back. I held them in my hands like tiny nuclear bombs, waiting for detonation. As the sun set on the final evening before her birthday, I stood in our kitchen watching her laugh on a FaceTime call, probably with him. She turned to me and winked. "You better make it unforgettable, babe," she teased. I nodded. "Oh, I will." Chapter 3. The Party Begins. The restaurant was lit with warm golden chandeliers, expensive, elegant, and packed. A private room near the back had been reserved under her name. Ashley's fabulous 38th was written in cursive pink balloons above the champagne table. I had personally made sure it was perfect. Everything she ever wanted, everyone she ever bragged to, her co-workers, her two-faced relatives, her old college besties, even her gym girls who only talked to her for clout. And Saul, he was there too, wearing my cologne, the toast. She strutted in like a queen, red dress, loud heels, that smug smirk she wore when she thought she'd won. The crowd erupted with applause. She air-kissed her way through the room and leaned in close to me. "Good job, babe," she whispered mockingly. I handed her the mic. She launched into her usual performance, a speech dripping with sarcasm, masked as gratitude. "Thank you all for being here, especially my husband. He's always so generous, even if I'm the one with the personality." Laughter. Let's just say he's more of a silent partner these days. More laughter. But hey, he threw me this party and we all know he loves a surprise. The irony was delicious, the gift she didn't expect. I stood beside her, clapping with everyone else. Then I raised my hand and said, "One more gift." Silence. A waiter brought a small black box and placed it gently on the table next to her. Inside were 4 neatly sealed white envelopes, each marked with a name, each belonging to one of our children. She looked confused, then annoyed. "What's this?" "Open them," I said. Collapse. The first envelope read, "Child Ava result may 0% probability of paternity." She blinked, laughed awkwardly, reached for the second one. "Child Mason result 0% probability of paternity." Gasps echoed from her friends. "Wait, this isn't funny." "Child Lily result 0% %." By the time she opened the fourth, she was trembling. She turned to me, eyes wide with horror. Her face went pale. You did DNA tests behind my back?" "No," I said calmly. "You did everything behind mine." I just caught up judgment. The room was dead silent. Forks paused midair, champagne glasses frozen in hands. Then Saul stood up, confused. "Wait, what the hell is this? Are you saying?" "Yes," I said, turning to him. "Congratulations, you're a father." 4 times over, apparently, her knees gave out. She collapsed into a chair, unable to breathe. I looked at her one final time and said, "This party was for you." But the truth was my gift to me, and with that, I walked out. Chapter 4. Fallout. I didn't stay to watch her cry. I didn't need to. By the time I stepped out of the restaurant into the cool night air, I knew the damage was already done. Not just to her reputation, but to the carefully curated fantasy she had built around me, the doting husband, the obedient provider, the perfect fool. Now the mask was off. "Please just talk to me." The call started around midnight. Blocked numbers, voicemails, text messages that went from rage to pleading in minutes. "You ruined my life. The kids don't even know yet. Please, let's talk first. I made mistakes, but I never wanted to hurt you. Don't do this to the children." But I didn't respond. Not yet. Because this wasn't over. The legal detonation. By Monday morning, she received the first real consequence. My lawyer, the same one she mocked for being old-fashioned, had filed a motion with the family court, requesting a full custody review, submitting the DNA results, citing marital fraud and emotional abuse, freezing joint assets until further review. The look on her face in the courtroom was everything. Her lawyer tried to argue emotional manipulation on my part. Said I should have told her privately, but the judge raised an eyebrow and said, "You publicly humiliated your husband at a birthday party while hiding 4 counts of paternity fraud. If you want sympathy, you're in the wrong courtroom." Saul's meltdown. As for Saul, he wasn't handling the spotlight very well. Tabloids started poking around. A few guests leaked videos from the party. The clip of him staring blankly at the DNA envelopes made it to social media. Bro found out he's a dad 4 times in 30 seconds. He went silent online, then deleted everything. When I bumped into him 2 weeks later at the gas station, he looked like he hadn't slept. "I didn't know, man," he muttered. "She told me you couldn't, have kids." I just smiled. She told me a lot of things too, the real pain. But the fallout wasn't just fireworks in courtrooms. The kids, they were the real storm. They cried, they asked questions, They were angry, not at me, but at the truth. I didn't blame them. They didn't ask for this. But I told them, no matter what blood says, I raised you. I loved you. And that's not going to change. That was the one moment that hurt more than betrayal, more than revenge. But it was also the moment I realized I had to finish this. Not for me anymore, but to protect them. Chapter 5. The party's over. 2 months later, my wife invited me to a family resolution dinner. It wasn't remorse. It was strategy. She wanted to settle things outside of court, avoid permanent damage to her image, reputation, and finances. But I agreed to come, not because I wanted peace, but because I had one final card to play. The dinner table set up. The table was carefully arranged, expensive wine, the kids in awkward silence, her parents pretending like none of this happened, and her dressed in soft tones, fake humility written all over her face. She cleared her throat. I think we've all suffered enough, and maybe it's time to focus on healing. You don't need to keep pushing this. We can co-parent and move on. I nodded slowly, then reached into my coat pocket. Funny you mentioned pushing, because I figured tonight was a good time to finally push back. I placed a small leather-bound notebook in front of her, her brow furrowed. She opened it and her hands began to shake. The journal. It was her journal, not a copy. The original. Inside, entries about her infidelity. Plans to divorce me after milking the retirement fund. Mockery of how easy it was to manipulate custody lawyers. She gasped. Where did you get this? You left it in the storage unit, labeled it under old tax documents, but that's not the part that matters. I turned to the last few pages. There, stapled in, were 2 checks, each for $500,000. One from her mother, one from Saul, both dated a year before I ever knew about the affair. One memo read, "Down payment after divorce is finalized, the checkmate." I stood up. That's conspiracy. That's fraud. And in about 24 hours, this entire folder will be handed to both your lawyer and mine, she stammered. Tears welled up. The kids watched, confused and stunned. Her father stood and growled. Is this how you treat your children's mother? I looked him dead in the eye. You mean the woman who convinced your grandkids their dad was a monster? The woman who laughed as she sold my ring to buy Saul a watch? Yeah, that's exactly how I treat her. The twist within the twist. As I turned to leave, I paused. Oh, one last thing. I pulled out a manila envelope. Her hands trembled as she took it. Inside, another DNA test. But this one was mine. Turns out my own biological parents had left behind an inheritance I never knew existed. After a private investigator tracked them down, the estate lawyers reached out. My name had been changed in the foster system, but I was the sole heir to a $12.4 million estate, and the paperwork ensured not 1 cent would ever reach her or Saul. The final exit. I kissed each of the kids on the forehead, one by one, and whispered, "You still have a real dad, just not the fantasy your mom sold you." Then I walked out, and as the door closed behind me, I heard her scream, not from pain, but from the realization that the man she mocked as worthless was the one thing she could never own. Epilogue. Legacy isn't given, it's built 5 years later. The world moved on, but not all scars fade. My ex-wife. She lost everything. The courts ruled in my favor after the evidence. Her journal, the checks, and witness testimony exposed years of calculated manipulation and emotional abuse. Fraud charges were dropped in exchange for a plea deal, but her reputation gone. No more weekend brunches with her high society soul sisters. No more influencer partnerships. No more brand deals. No more luxury. She now works at a local real estate office. Her face never shown on camera. Her name whispered, if at all, like a ghost of scandal. Every year on our old anniversary, she sends an email. The subject line is always the same. Can we talk? I never respond. Saul turns out karma has excellent aim. After the journal surfaced, Saul's marriage collapsed. His wife, yes, he had one, filed for divorce, took the kids, and sued him for concealed finances and infidelity. He went bankrupt 2 years later. Now he lives alone in a studio apartment near the train tracks. He drinks, he gambles, he rants about how I ruined his life, but he never once apologized. The kids. This was the hardest part. For a year they stayed with their mom, alienated, confused, distant, but slowly. Truth has a way of finding light. My oldest, now in college, called me out of the blue. "Dad, I found the journal in Mom's attic. I didn't believe them. I want to come home one by one." They came back. Not because I begged, but because I stayed and kept becoming the kind of man they could run to, not from. Today we speak every week. We cook together. We build a little more every day. What she tried so hard to tear down. Me, I moved to a quiet town near the coast. Invested in a startup that builds homes for veterans. Started mentoring at a local outreach center for fatherless kids. Even fell in love again quietly, respectfully with someone who values honesty over aesthetics, presence over performance. I don't post much, but sometimes when I see photos of my kids laughing at dinner or building sandcastles with my fiance's niece, I smile because I remember the man she once called worthless. And I realize that man died at my mother's grave, the one who rose up after. He's building something no one can take. Was this revenge perfectly justified, or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one. Hit like if you crave justice and share this story with someone who needs its fire. Subscribe to Walter's story, because here betrayals don't sleep. They hunt their owners. Every shadow hides a reckoning. Every mask breaks. And every betrayal is answered. Stay sharp. Stay unbroken. Stay tuned.